qualitative data. Suppose I ask, what is the beauty of a flower? How do we quantify that? That becomes very difficult. So whatever data we collect, color of a person, then qualification of a person, brand of a computer, all this becomes qualitative data because we cannot quantify that. It becomes attributes. And the last one, which most of the researcher will be using this, that's the quantitative data. That is, you can have a magnitude and it is measured through numerical value. For example, the height of a person, weight of a person, age, income, etc. Then how do we collect the data? That either through the records or through the surveys, or you can even go to the experiment. In agriculture, we conduct experiment either in the field or in the lab. Then when you come to the surveys, it could be either comprehensive or through the sample. Then there are two ways. One is constant data that doesn't change at all. Whereas the variables, it goes on changing. Suppose height of a person, it goes on changing. Weight of a person, it goes on changing. But Dr. Vijay Kumar sir, his weight is stopped at, it becomes a constant data, I think, sir, because your weight is the same as you were earlier also. I should really compliment you for that. But what I mean is here the variable which takes on different values. Okay, then there are two types, as I already mentioned. One is quantitative and qualitative. In quantitative, we have two types. That is, in quantitative, we have two types. That is discrete and continuous. Under discrete, we can just say number of houses, number of students in Parul University, number of students admitted for PhD. All this cannot be fractional values, so that becomes a discrete value. Then continuous, length of a plant, height of a person, then the weight of a person, time, age, all this becomes continuous data. It can take any fractional values. Then, when I say the data, we collect the raw data, but actually we are interested in posing a single value. Suppose I ask, what is the average marks scored in Parul University? You would say 80% or 85%. Why don't you say each person, suppose there are 6,000 students in your college, why don't you say that the student 1 got 70%, student 2 got 72%, student 3 got 73%? We don't say that. We would like to have a single figure representing the whole set of data. That is known as the measure of central tendency. We want to have a central value around which all other values will be having the tendency to rotate. This is somewhat like the measure of location, which is in the center. So it can be any value in the data itself, or it can be any value within the range of the data. Then whenever we talk about the measure of central tendency, we expect some characteristic to be there. See, whenever you want to be a vice chancellor or registrar, you expect that the registrar should be very disciplined, he should be very strict, or it should be very fast in taking decision and things like that. Similarly, we have the characteristic or the properties of a measure of central tendency. It should be based on all the observation, and it should be rigidly defined. It should be comprehensible and easy to calculate, and it should be suitable for further mathematical treatments, or it should be least affected as little as possible by sampling fluctuation, and it should be least affected by extreme value. And there are actually 5 methods of central tendency: the mean, median, and mode. I'll not be talking about this because these are very basic, but you need to know what are this. In case any of the student, if you have any doubts, you can stop me at any stage. There are 3 means. One is arithmetic mean, second one is geometric mean, third one is harmonic mean. The arithmetic mean is the most widely used, the measure of central tendency. Then suppose you have an average. Let us say there are 3 batsmen. Maybe the Dhoni, Sachin Tendulkar, and Virat Kohli. All of them have scored on an average 125. But maybe the Dhoni consistently has got 125 in the first match, in the second match, as well as in the third match. Whereas the Virat Kohli might have got 50, 125, and 175. That is deviation. So this deviation from the mean can be measured through dispersion. So I'm talking about dispersion in just in a fraction of a second. That is, there are 4 means of dispersions. Actually, it is absolute and relative dispersion. You can just say range. Range is nothing but when we talk about the temperature. What is the highest temperature? What is the lowest temperature? That is nothing but the range. Today's minimum temperature, today's maximum temperature. Then comes the interquartile range. That means we are dividing the data into 4 equal parts and we are concentrating only in the middle 50% of the data. Then comes the mean deviation. It is the deviation, we are ignoring the sign and adding it and take the average, that is the mean deviation. But that is also not correct because we are ignoring the symbol. So the last one is standard deviation. That is the best measure of dispersion. That is, I'll tell you how to do that. This is the formula. You need not worry about the formula. You just take the deviation from the average, then square it, take the average, then take the square root. That becomes a standard deviation. It is the best measure of dispersion. So if you have average and standard deviation, most of you, I heard you have Ayurvedic, you have medicine also, you can talk about the data. So these are the characteristics, what you expect in the standard deviation. It should be amenable for the mathematical manipulation. It should be independent of origin, but not of scale. And it does not ignore the algebraic signs. It is left affected by this. See, this is very, very important. You can see this is the average. Let us say the average height of Indian population is 5 feet 3 inches. And the standard deviation is 3 inches. Then you can say that 68.27% of the population are lying in between mu plus or minus 1 sigma. What I mean is 5 feet 3 inch minus 3 inch. That becomes 5 feet. 5 feet 3 inch plus 3 inch. That is 5 feet 6 inch. So 68.27% of the people are lying between 5 feet to 5 feet 6 inch. Similarly, 95.45% of the total population are lying between mean plus or minus 2 sigma. Similarly, almost 100%, you can say 99.73% of the total population are lying between mean plus or minus 3 sigma. This is very, very useful for those who cannot go for the very advanced statistical test. With the help of just mean and standard deviation, especially those of you who are doing just the average and the standard deviation, you can talk about the distribution of data just with the help of this. Suppose I know the height, I know the marks of Parul University, and I know the standard deviation also. I can say how many percent of the students are above 90%, how many percent of the students are above 80%, how many percent of the students are above 70%, and so on. Okay. Then, is there any questions up to now? I'll be going for, sir. From student, is there any question up to now? I'll be talking about hypothesis testing. Dr. Vandana?
Yeah, madam, you may continue. I think so. If there is there at the end, we can have the session.
Okay, sure. Okay, so hypothesis testing, actually, whenever we see, let us say now, the Ganapati, the statue of Ganapati. Whenever I see a statue of Ganapati, I always feel that he should have a trunk. But have any one of us have actually seen Ganapati? No, none of us have seen Ganapati. In spite of that, we assume that Ganapati has trunk because it is our belief. The belief, what we have, statistically, we call it as assumption. We have not seen the real Ganapati. With the help of a small statue or small figure, I'm saying that Ganapati should have a trunk. How do you see that whether the vegetable is cooked or not? You just take one piece of it, and if that particular piece is cooked, you say the whole bunch of vegetable or whole vessel of vegetable is cooked. That is nothing but with the help of small one piece, you are going to generalize about the whole population. That is what I'm going to talk about. That is nothing but the hypothesis testing. See, you can just see here, this is a small sample we are taking. Once we take the sample, all the research scholars who are present here today, you just see you will be conducting a small experiment. With the help of this sample, you are going to generalize, you are going to infer about the population which you do not know. This is a small Ganapati statue, what is presented to you, but this is the real Ganapati, which you have not seen. Please remember this. So with the help of the sample statistic, we are going to talk about the population parameter. How do we do that? What assumption we do, statistically we call it as hypothesis. And how do we say whether this hypothesis is correct or not? That is nothing but the hypothesis testing. Actually, the purpose of testing of hypothesis to determine whether a certain assumption or hypothesis about a parameter can be justified by statistical evidence. For example, let us say there are two boys. One is 5 feet 4 inch, one is 5 feet 5 inch. Can you say that they differ significantly? Or do you say that one is taller than the other? Just by height, you say that the second person is 2 inch taller than this. But when you conduct just experiment only with one replication, we cannot say that. As we proceed further, I'll be talking about that. Then how do we make the decision? These two things are very, very important in testing of hypothesis. Okay. Now, I will be just giving you, I'll be sharing the slide also later. The hypothesis, nothing but a statement that something is true, especially about the parameter. And statistical hypothesis about the parameter of one population or two population, maybe the population of Gujarat, the population of Karnataka combined, and I can compare that. I'll come to that little later. And we have two hypotheses in statistics. One is null hypothesis, other one is alternative hypothesis. The null hypothesis is the hypothesis which needs to be tested. Usually at the end of the research, we reject the hypothesis. It doesn't mean that some of you might be having some doubt. It is not 100% true that you have to reject it. It could be accepted also. Okay, I'll be giving some example. Then another one is alternative hypothesis, which is denoted by H1, which is quite opposite of null hypothesis, which is alternative to the null hypothesis. It is like in a question paper, you have true and false. If it is not true, it is false. The same thing. Null hypothesis of no difference, they are equal, and the alternative hypothesis, no, they differ. Okay. That is what again, hypothesis of no difference and is usually formulated for the purpose of being rejected. Alternative hypothesis complementary to the null hypothesis. Now, then when we say here, there are two types of test. One is one-tailed test, another one is two-tailed test. It is just similar. You can just see, I say that the average height of Parul University students is 5 feet 2 inch. See, one is theta, another one is theta naught. Okay, this theta is nothing but what I am assuming in my mind. Let us say 5 feet 3 inch is a actual height of Parul University student. And I am drawing a sample, maybe they are 5 feet 2 inch. So this is theta and theta naught. When I say theta is equal to theta naught, it becomes two-tailed test. It could be theta less than theta 2. I can just say that the Parul University students average is less than that. It is right tail. One is left tail, another one is right tail. When I say not equal, equal, then that becomes tail. It could be other way. I'll go to the next slide. You will understand this. When I say they're not equal, that only means it could be lesser than that or it could be higher than that. So it is two-tailed test. Either theta is less than theta naught or theta is greater than theta naught. Two alternatives are possible. That's the reason it is known as two-tailed test. If you say theta is always greater than, whenever you grow some hybrid variety, you say that that hybrid variety yield is always greater than the expected. Then you say it is a right-tailed test. Otherwise, you say that the local variety is always yielding less than the hybrid variety, it is a left-tailed test. This is how we make the alternative hypothesis. Okay. Then, suppose I assume that the Parul University students' marks should be equal to 85. Okay. And you have drawn a sample of 100 students whose average turned out to be 80. Do you reject the hypothesis or do you accept the hypothesis? The next question comes to all of us. We face this problem whenever we conduct an experiment. I assume that the average marks scored by Parul University students should be 85. But I have drawn a sample of 100 students from Parul University whose average marks turned out to be 80. Should I discard those students or should I reject my result or should I accept? This is the problem all of us are facing. So please, I'm going to give a small story by which you will be very clear if you understand this. There are 4 possibilities which are possible. Okay. One is, I am just giving you a butler story. Let us say I am a butler. I am walking on the ground in the early morning. I saw a dead body. The moment I see a dead body, what do? I go and complain to the police station. You know what happens? The police come and start accusing me only. They might be suspecting me only. They might be suspecting me that you are the person who has murdered the person who is died. Or they can say that you are an innocent. So there are four possibilities which are possible. One is butler is accused by the detective and in fact he did it, or which is a correct decision. Yes, I have murdered him and police are suspecting me. That is the correct decision. And the second one is butler is accused by the detective when in fact he did not commit the crime. I am an innocent person. In spite of that, the police is suspecting me. That is a wrong decision. Okay. The third one is butler is considered innocent and he in fact did not commit the crime. This is also correct. I am innocent and police also declaring that I am innocent. That is the correct decision. And the fourth one is even more dangerous. The butler is considered innocent and in fact he did commit the crime. I have actually murdered him, but the police are releasing me. This is a wrong decision. So there could be two wrong decisions and two right decisions because there are four possibilities. Okay, so butler did it and they charge him. It is a correct decision. But butler did not do it. He is an innocent person, but the police charge him. It is an error. Similarly, when butler did it and the police release him, it is also an error. And butler is an innocent and they release him. So these two are the correct decisions. These two are the wrong decision. This is what exactly happens in research. Your decision, null hypothesis may be right, and you are accepting it, that is a correct decision. But null hypothesis is right, you are rejecting it, that is one error you are committing. Similarly, you are accepting a wrong decision, that is also an error, and you are accepting a correct, that is also correct. So what is the hypothesis here? It should be the butler is innocent, and the alternative hypothesis, butler is not innocent. I'll give you a few examples to make it clear. An innocent person, actual situation, he is innocent and the judgment is also given as innocent. So it is a correct decision. Similarly, a culprit is being given the judgment as culprit, that is also correct. But these two are dangerous. A culprit is being judged as innocent, that is wrong. Similarly, an innocent person has been judged as error culprit, that is also wrong. Okay, then I'll come to this. Suppose a person, now the corona is there, you're going for testing. Let's say in actual situation, the person is suffering from corona and the diagnosis also tells, yes, he has corona. That is the correct decision. But imagine a person is really having corona and the doctor judges or he diagnoses it as negative, then what happens? It is a wrong decision. It is a wrong decision. Similarly, a person do not have corona, but the doctor diagnosed it as positive. That is also an error. That is also a mistake. Then similarly, a person does not have disease and the doctor also tells, no, he does not have. That's the correct decision. I hope you understand. And again, for the cricket players, I would like to give this example. Let us say a person, the Virat Kohli is out, and sometimes you get confused and it goes to the third umpire. Actually, the actual situation, Virat Kohli is out. And the umpire tells, no, he is not out. It is an error. Please imagine Virat Kohli is actually, he is out. And the third umpire says, no, he is not out. It is a wrong decision. Similarly, Virat Kohli is not out and the umpire tells he is not out. That is the correct decision. And the third possibility is Virat Kohli is actually not out, but the third umpire tells he is out. That is the wrong decision. And the fourth one would be he is really out and the third umpire also tells he is out. That's the correct decision. I hope you understand because I'm giving so many examples. Once it is understood, then it is very easy for you to use the conclusion or the inference. And let's go to the quality control. Suppose you have a bad lot of fruits and the quality control measure also tells, yes, it is bad. Then it is a correct decision. But suppose it is bad lot and you purchase it as good, that is a wrong. Similarly, a good lot which is rejected by the quality control, that is also wrong. Similarly, you can just say when it is some inoculum, it is not effective, but researchers says it is effective, then it is wrong. Similarly, an effective in the actual situation has been judged as not effective, that is also wrong. Okay, so when I'm converting this into statistics, the H0 stands for null hypothesis, H1 stands for alternative hypothesis. So when H0 is true and you don't reject it, means you accept it, this is correct. When H0 is true and you are rejecting it, it is some error. Similarly, H0 is true and you are rejecting, these errors are possible in our research. Okay, so the rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true is known as type 1 error. Similarly, accepting the null hypothesis when it is false is known as type 2 error. The probability of committing type 1 error is known as level of significance. All research theses, if you just turn over, you will say this word. No thesis is complete without this word, that is level of significance. That is nothing but the risk what you are taking in concluding your conclusions or inferring about your results. That is the probability of committing type 1 error, when actually it is true. I mean to say, usually we keep the level of significance at 5%, or under lab experiment, we keep it under 1%. We don't keep it under 100%. It is only 5% or 1%. When you say 5% is a level of significance, it means that out of 100 experiment what you conduct, 5 times you may be wrong, but 95% of the cases you are correct. It is just like the success rate of a doctor. When you go to a doctor, you always say, what is the success rate of that particular doctor? If you say he's 100%, what does it mean? You say that all the 100 patients who have consulted him, they become all right. Isn't it? Similarly, the experiment, what you conduct, out of 100 experiment, 95 cases you are right. Only 5 cases you may be wrong. This is nothing but the level of significance. I'll be coming to that as and when we go for different tests. And one more is accepting the null hypothesis when it is false. The probability of committing type 2 error is known as beta, and 1 minus beta is the power of the test, which is also important. Now, these are the errors. We need to reduce it. How do we reduce this is the next. To reduce this, we need to increase the sample size. My dear friends, your teachers or your guides must be telling, go for a larger sample. Now you understand why you need to go for a larger sample. Because as the sample size increases, your error decreases. They are inversely proportional. As the sample size increases, I'll repeat it, as the sample size increases, the error decreases. Okay, that's the reason we say that the YALM is very, very important in determining the type 1 error as well as type 2 error. Now, this is already I have told you the type 1 error and type 2 error. So I'll just switch on to this. You will understand this is a normal curve. This is normal curve. See, this alpha comes at the tail end. So if this is 5%, suppose you have a two-tail test, 2.5% will be here, 2.5% will be here. As and when we go for different tests, you will understand that. And this is the another one, alternative hypothesis, and it is beta, power of the test. Now, actually, there are so many steps involved in conducting research. First, whenever you conduct a research, I do not know, sir, whether you have plan of research, how we have here in our university. Do you have?
Yes, Asha, we have that.
Okay, so I'll be talking about plan of research. When you conduct a plan of research, again, the first thing what you do is you state a hypothesis based on your objective. Then we establish a level of significance, which is almost fixed, either 5% or 1%. Then based on that, we define the rejection region also. Then we need to collect the data, either primary data or the experiment, real experiment, or the sample secondary data. Then using of proper statistical test is very, very important. That's the reason I always say, see, you visit a doctor, then he will ask you the symptoms, isn't it? He will ask you whether you have headache, whether you have fever, whether you have dysentery. he will not give the same tablet for all the diseases. If you have fever, he might give Dolo. If you have dysentery, he might give some other. If you have a headache, he will give some other tablet. Does he give the same tablet for all the disease? Similarly, based on the assumptions, based on the conditions, as a statisticians, we need to use different statistical tests. That is very, very crucial. Once you understand how to use the proper statistical test, your 75% of the problem is solved. So I'll be talking about different statistical tests which could be used in your research. And based on the results, you have to decide it. See, I was talking about one tail and two tail. The two tail you have here, rejection region. Suppose 5% is there, the 5 by 2 and 5 by 2, that is nothing but 2.5% here, 2.5% here. Suppose it is one tail, the entire 5% will be at one end. These are the rejection region which is possible. You just see, this is a critical value. We call it as a critical value. I'll come to this little later, again, when I'm talking about the Z test. Okay, so this could be, see, the mean, mu is denoted as mean. Mean could be greater than or more or equal to 3 or less than this. Okay, or it is, you can just see the different critical values here, one tail, and this is two tail. Now, all of us face this problem. Sir, Vijay Kumar sir, you are also doing like him. Please see here. This is which statistical test to be used.
So the coincidence.
No, I'm just joking.
Madam, you are giving very lucid examples.
Pardon, sir.
You are giving very lucid examples.
Yeah, that's what I said. See, I cannot forget my sir. That's the reason. He also happens to touch his head. So when to use which statistical test? That is very important for all of us to do. So I'll be talking about different statistical tests. Now, before going for the test, you need to understand what are the type of data we are using. There are 4 types of data. One is nominal, second one is ordinal, third one is ratio, and the interval. I'll be just giving in brief about this. Okay, nominal, gender. That does not, you cannot measure it. Gender, male and female. I can say that in Parul University, maybe 75% are men and 30% are female. We cannot quantify better than that. We can talk in terms of frequency. We cannot use any statistical test for that. Or we say that in Agriculture University, Dharwad, sir knows that now it is increased to 50-50, almost a student. Otherwise, 70% are boys and 30% are girls. And suppose whether you have vaccinated for a particular disease, you might say yes or no. Or the computer brand, I say HP or Acer or things like that. We cannot measure it. You can say how many Acers you have, how many HPs you have. So this which cannot be quantified, only names can be given, codes can be given. That is known as nominal data. Then comes the ordinal data. For example, if I say, how is your lecture? I can say that it is excellent, very good, good, fair, or poor. It is like, see, you know that definitely excellent is the best. Then followed by very good, then good, fair, and poor. Isn't it? So otherwise, the below average, average, and good. This 3 things also you can use it. Or illiterate, then primary, then high school, then college, degree, like that. In order it goes. So you know which is better than the other. Then comes the interval scale. For example, body mass index, BMI, all of you might be knowing. Based on this, we say whether a person is obese or underweight or overweight, or you might be having CGPA in your university. So the person having 6 and low, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 and 10, or 60 to 70%, 70 to 80%, 80 to 90%, 90 to 100%. This is an interval with which we are counting. Okay. Then comes the last, that is very, very important. The ratio. You can have anything under this. Your age, number of drinks, the perception percentage, blood alcohol concentration, all this comes under ratio scale. The height, weight, marks, yield, area, production, everything comes under. So you can use all the statistical tests for ratio data, but not for nominal data. Please remember, we cannot use any statistical test for nominal data. We need to just speak in terms of percentage only. We can use some of the statistical tests for interval scale, so also for the ordinal chi-square and things like that, not for nominal. So don't make the mistake of that. Then I'll be talking about all this tests now. The Z-test, T-test, F-test, chi-square test, correlation, regression, one-way ANOVA. I'll be talking about that. Kindly bear with me. Then, when to use which test? These are the parametric tests. Parameter is nothing but the characteristic function of the population. So, if the sample size is less than 30, then we need to go for T-test. I'll be coming again for that, but in summary, I'm just putting, if the sample size is quite large, that means it is more than 30. And if you want to compare the means, then we can go for Z-test. If you want to compare the variances, not the means, variation, dispersion, then you go for F-test. Okay. Now, let me start with one by one. First one is Z-test. Whenever the sample is quite large means more than 30, and it is being randomly selected from the normal population, then we can use for Z-test. It could be for one group or it could be to compare between the two groups. These are the three conditions. One is the sample size should be quite large. Then the sample should be drawn from normal population at random. If three conditions satisfies, then we can go for Z-test. And these are the things we need to know. One is standard deviation, then the mean, then it should be X bar actually, only X is highlighted, then the sample size. I'll give you an example how to do this. Z-test with one sample. I'm giving for one sample as well as for two samples. Okay. In case we are interested in testing whether the observed population mean is equal to the pre-assigned population value or not. This formula is, don't bother about the formula. Nowadays, computer does everything. You know when to use which test and how to interpret. That is the main thing all of us need to know. Let me give this example. Let us say the aptitude test required for entry into certain degree. Let us say your Parul University is 500. To test this, your honorable registrar has drawn a sample of 36 applicants with a mean of 546 and a standard deviation of 120. Is there evidence that their mean score differ from the mean what I have said 500 that is expected from the applicant? This is a research problem. I expect that to get entry into your university, the person should get 500 marks out of 1000 or 750 or whatever it is. To test this, I have taken 36 applicants from Parul University whose score is 546 with a standard deviation of 120. Let us say which test to be used. First one is, it is large, sample size is large, more than 30, and I have selected 36 students randomly from without any bias from Parul University. That is the reason I am going for Z-test. What is my assumption here? There is no difference between the expected value and the sample what I have collected, 536 and the 530. And the alternative hypothesis, yes, there is difference. Okay, and I'm keeping the level of significance at 5%. Then we have collected information from 36 students whose average marks is 546 with a standard deviation of 120. And this is the assumed value. Now I'm substituting this and I get a value of 2.3. Now, you got the result. The computer does the result, gives you the result. Whether you accept the hypothesis or reject the hypothesis, a very, very crucial point for all of us. Any PhD students? Can you interact with me? Hello? Hello?
Students, please.
Yeah, because it should not be one way. They should not be like boring for them. They should not feel that I'm just speaking without any students, PhD students. Vandana, Dr. Vandana.
Yes, ma'am. That is me.
No, I know, but any PhD students are they able to answer?
I'm asking to them only.
See, 2.3 is the calculated value I got. Should I reject this or should I accept this? This is the next question. We reject the hypothesis because I said only 500 is sufficient. Actually, the table value, the critical value. See, I want to tell you one thing here. All of us know that our normal BP is 120 by 90. Nowadays, they say it is 80. Suppose our BP rises to 85. Do we rush to doctor? 125 by 85. Do we rush to doctor? No, we don't rush to doctor. Suppose it rises 145 by 110 or so, we rush to doctor. So when do you rush to a doctor? Whenever it crosses our limit, whenever it crosses a critical value, then only we go there. Isn't it? Similarly, we expect that there should not be any difference between the sample mean and the population mean. There should not be any difference between the expected value and the value what I have calculated. If the difference is beyond the critical value, then only we reject the hypothesis. Otherwise, we accept the hypothesis. Please remember this. The critical value changes for each test. For Z test at 5%, it is 1.96 minus or plus. If you are getting confused, you always remember plus because it is a symmetric curve. You need not worry about minus. Even if you get minus 2.3, you convert into plus 2.3. If it is greater than 1.96, it is dangerous. It is beyond critical value, you reject the null hypothesis. If it is less than 1.96, then you accept the null hypothesis. Please remember this. If the calculated value is greater than the critical value, then you reject the null hypothesis. Otherwise, you accept it. If you understand this, then 99% of your problem is solved. Okay? So here it is greater than the 1.96. That is the reason I say that there is a difference between the population mean and the sample mean. Okay. Then I go for two sample case. I want to compare two. Let us say I want to compare between the marks between Dharwad student and Parul University student. I expect that the students of Dharwad are as bright as Parul University students. I want to compare this. Then again, we can use that test, keeping in mind that the sample size should be large. The formula used here is x bar 1 minus x bar 2, that is mean of first sample, and the mean of second sample divided by standard error. Okay. Then I'm giving you one practical example here. Let us test whether the emotional instability between the rural and urban respondent are equal or different. Nowadays, the COVID is going on and all of us are having anxiety, and let us see whether our emotional stability is same between the rural and the urban people. To test that, we have selected 88 rural population, rural youth with a mean of 24.74 with a standard deviation of 6.92. Sorry. Then there are 32 people have been selected from urban with a mean of 26.50 and a standard deviation of 6.97. What should be our hypothesis here? There is no difference between rural urban respondent with respect to emotional instability. The alternative hypothesis is always ulta of that. So it says there is difference between rural and urban respondent. And I'm keeping the level of significance at 5%. And this is a formula we are using. When you use it, the calculated value turned out to be 0.78. Now, should I accept it or reject it? I told you if the calculated value is greater than 1.96, then only you reject it. Otherwise, you accept it. 0.78 is less than 1.96, so we accept the null hypothesis. What does it mean? What does it mean? When I say we are accepting, we say that there is no difference between the rural and the urban respondent with respect to emotional instability. Then one of you might ask me, why this difference then? See, you are finding, I told you, you are finding here. See, the urban emotional instability is 26.50, whereas rural it is 20.74. Why this difference then? This is just due to sample fluctuation. This is sample what we have drawn. We might have drawn 32 people who are emotionally unstable, that's all. But statistically, there is no difference between the rural and the urban with respect to emotional instability. Please remember this. Whenever you are saying except the null hypothesis, statistically it is proved. This is the table. See, how do we get that 5%, 1.96 also I want to say. The 5% is nothing but 2.5 on the right hand side, 2.5 on the left hand side. So when I say 2.5 on the left hand side, it is 0.5 minus 0.025, that becomes 0.475. The PhD student, whoever is here, you can just see here 0.475. Okay. So this becomes 1. You can just see here the cursor, what I'm taking here, 1.75. 1.96 is the table value. This is how we get. Then once the Z test is clear, I go for T test. See, all the time you may not get the sample size to be larger. You might end up with smaller sample size. Then what to do? Actually, in the year 1908, W.S. Gossett is a student who used to write the article in the name of student because he was not very confident to publish his paper. But it became so famous, it became almost like Z-test. That is why it is popularly known as student t-test, because his pet name is student. W.S. Gossett's pet name is student, and he started writing the article which is just similar to Z-test. The only difference is the variation is more, but it is also symmetric. It ranges from minus infinity to plus infinity. Everything is set. Only difference is the variation is more because the sample size is small. If the sample size is less than 30, we go for student t-test. It could be 1 sample, just like Z, or 2 sample, or I'll come to paired test. You can compare equality of 2 small samples, or 1 sample, or the pair of samples. I'll be going for that. Then here also, each population is normally distributed. I told you 3 things. Sample size should be small, then normally distributed, sample should be drawn at random. And we do not know the sample standard deviation. Then we go for the t-test. Okay, t-test, we never write capital T here. We always write small t. Please, students, please make a note of it. Always we write small t. We never write capital T here. Okay. Now, I'm taking one example. 12 MBA students are chosen at random from Belgaum, and heights were found to be in centimeters like this. It was assumed that the mean height of MBA student is 150 students. Instead of Belgaum, we can quote it as the Parul Malli, the Parul University Malli. I assume that the mean height of Parul MBA student is 150 centimeters. To test that hypothesis, I have chosen 12 MBA students whose heights were found to be 153, 164, 153, 155 like this. Now, how to test this? What should be my null hypothesis? Null hypothesis says that the mean height is 150. The alternative hypothesis, no, it is not 150. Then the step 2, the chosen 12 student height is 156 with a standard deviation of 5.4. Then I use t-test, which is x bar minus mu by sigma by. The calculated value is 3.96. Should I reject it or should I accept it? That is the next question. See, here also we have, I'll just go to the table and show you before I go for this, because you should not think, see, there is table. This is a table. You can just see here 0.5%. See, this is nothing but the degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom is nothing but the number of independent variables what we are using. Number of independent variables. Suppose there are 10 observations, then n minus 1 becomes the degrees of freedom. Suppose 12 students are there, 11 will be the degrees of freedom. So the table value, the critical value is nothing but 2.20. If the calculated value is greater than 2.20, then we reject the null hypothesis, not otherwise. Please understand this. So with this, I'll go back to that. Okay. Okay. So now the calculated value is 3.96. What is the table value? 2.26, 2.20. The level of significance table value is this. Since the calculated value is greater than the table value, I reject the null hypothesis. That means the average height of the high school students are significantly higher than the assumed height of 150 centimeters. See, this is a problem given to you. You can work it out later. Okay. Test whether the sample has come from the population with the average grade point of 8.5. This is a problem given to the audience or the PhD student. Dr. Vandana, you please take care of it later. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Then I go for two sample t-test. Okay. You can compare two small groups, just like z-test where we compare two larger sample. Here we can compare two small sample t-test. I want to compare the market prices of two samples. Let us say Dharwad and Bangalore. Is there any significant difference in market prices between two places? I have selected 10 markets from Dharwad or 10 farmers from Dharwad and 10 from Bangalore. These are the values. The null hypothesis says there is no difference. Just like that test, it also tells there is no difference. The alternative hypothesis, yes, there is difference. To compare this, we are using again, just similar to z-test, we are using this formula. The calculated t-value turned out to be 5.35. Now, please find it. How many observations are there? In the first group, we have 10. In the second group, we have 10. So the degrees of freedom will be n minus 1 plus n2 minus 1. So altogether, it is 10 minus 1 plus 10 minus 1, 18 degrees of freedom. I have to test this for 18 degrees of freedom. So the calculated value for 18 degrees, table value for 18 degrees of freedom is 2.26. Our calculated value is greater than that. So I am rejecting the null hypothesis. That means to say that the Dharwad farmers are getting better price compared to Bangalore farmers. The Dharwad market is fetching more price compared to Bangalore market. This is what I want to say. It differs significantly. Dharwad market is significantly superior in rate compared to Bangalore. Or your place, you can take any of your place, you can say that the Parul is bringing higher rate compared to Dharwad. There is a significant difference between the Parul and the Dharwad. When you reject the hypothesis, you can say it's statistically significant. Okay. Again, I'm giving one more example. Dr. Vandana, you can give it to your students later. Okay. And
Yes,
there are two more. I'm just giving you two more examples which can be worked later. Because of shortage of time, I'll not be going for so many examples. One example I'll be giving, and rest I'll give it to you. Okay. Then the third one. What happens here is you would like to know. See, now so many people are suffering from COVID. You want to know by injecting some tablets whether there is any intervention or decrease in COVID. So how do we test this? You have to take the same set of people before as well as later, and we go for t-test. This is known as paired t-test. Whenever some intervention is given, whenever some medicine is given, whenever some intervention, you want to reduce the weight. Let us say 100 obese people you take, they go for gym. Then after 2 months, you want to know what is their reduction in weight. The same 100 should be there. We are comparing before weight and the later weight. That is why it is known as paired t-test. We are using paired t-test in this case to know the intervention, whether there is any impact of this. Okay, so I'm going for paired t-test where the sample sizes are same, and here also three assumptions are made. One is population is normal, then the observations are taken pairwise. Ashlata before, Ashlata later, Vandana before, Vandana later. You cannot skip. Suppose Vandana was not present earlier, you cannot consider her later. She will be skipped. She will be missed from the observation, pair of observation. So we take the difference, then we divide by the standard deviation by root n. So this is before and after, then the difference, then these are the statistics what we have, don't bother about that. Now the calculated value is 1.48. Do you accept the hypothesis or do you reject the hypothesis? See, I told you T, the variation is 4. So the minimum value T can take is 1.96. When the sample size is 30, T distribution reaches to, Vandana, is it audible?
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Okay. No, here there is power cut. That's the reason I
Okay.
asked. Okay.
No, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. Now the T value is 1.48. The minimum value T can take is 1.96. That's the reason outrightly you can accept the hypothesis. You need not even go for table value. Whenever the sample size is more than 30, the T reaches Z or T touches Z. 1.48 is beyond our limit. That's the reason you can directly accept the null hypothesis. That means to say that whether you give training or not, whether you give medicine or that, the impact of medicine is not significant. Impact of training is not significant. When you accept this, you say that the impact is 0. Statistically, there is no impact. Okay. Acceptance region, the training is insignificant or not significant. It was not effective. See, this is a table I was talking about. I have already told you, and you can just see when the sample size is large, the table value reaches to 1.96, which is nothing but the critical value of Z test. Okay. Here again, I'm giving you some examples, Dr. Vandana. You can give it to your students later. You can ask them to solve it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
This
Yes.
will be your feedback. If they are really able to do it, I think I'll be happy. Okay. See,
Okay.
we have seen Z test, we have seen T test. Each Z test, 1 sample, 2 sample, T, 1 sample, 2 sample, and PET test. These all the tests are used to test the population mean. Now I want to compare between the variation. Whether the variation of the first group is on par with the variation of the second, then we have to use F test. It is known as F test to compare the variances. And the sample, it is known as standard deviation. Always F test is a ratio of larger variance divided by smaller variance. We always put larger variance in the numerator and smaller variance in the denominator. And the degrees of freedom is always n-1 versus n2 minus 1. Or the degrees of freedom of the numerator versus the degrees of freedom of the denominator. For example, if a sample of 8 observation, the estimate of variance was found out to be 12.06, and in another sample of 10 observation, it was found out to be 11.4. Test whether there is any difference between the variances at 5% level of significance. Okay. What is the null hypothesis? Sigma 1 square is equal to sigma 2 square. The alternative hypothesis, sigma 1 square is not equal to sigma 2 square, and it is at 5%. And n1 is 8, n2 is 10, sigma 1 square is 12.06, sigma 2 is 11.4, and the calculated F value is 1.05. Now again, you can test the table value. I'll show you the table value. See, we had 7 versus 9 degrees of freedom. 7 versus 9. The table value is 3.29. That is a critical value. If the calculated value is greater than 3.29, then only we reject the null hypothesis, not otherwise. Since the calculated value, what was the calculated value? 1.05, which is far, far less than the 3.29. That is the reason we accept the null hypothesis. That means to say that there is no difference between the variances. 2 group variances are equal. That means to say that the population of first group and the population of second group are homogeneous with respect to variances. Please remember, when we say they are equal, it is homogeneous. Variances are equal means homogeneous. Then, see, all these tests are used to test the parameters, either mean or the variance. Now, suppose, especially in medicine, you do not find the mean or the variances. You just want to use some test. where there are no parameters. When there is no parameter, we can use chi-square test, which is known as non-parametric test. I'll give you one example. I just want to know whether the Gujarat people, they drink more tea or more coffee. I assume that the drinking of coffee is on par with drinking of tea, 50-50. If one person drinks tea, one person drinks coffee, 50% versus 50%. Let us test this. So we use this chi-square is nothing but the observed minus the expected whole square divided by the expected. I'll give you an example to make it very simple for you. Let us assume that the coffee and tea drinkers in Karnataka is 50 and 50. When we draw a sample of 100, it was observed that 40 were drinking coffee and 60 were drinking tea. Test the assumption that there is equal number of coffee and tea drinkers in Karnataka. Okay, so the null hypothesis says the number of coffee and tea drinkers in Karnataka are in the ratio of 1:1. And the alternative hypothesis, no, number of coffee drinkers is not equal to number of tea drinkers. Okay. Now, the level of significance is 5%. Now, the number, I have drawn a sample of 100 population from Karnataka, out of which 40 were coffee drinkers and for 60 were tea drinkers. Okay. Then these are the observed. How do we get the expected? Expected is out of 100, here there be a equal proportion, 50 would have been coffee drinkers and 50 would have been tea drinkers. That's the reason we get expected here, then observed minus expected, minus 10 plus 10, then square it, then divide by the expected. So 2 and 2. It is nothing but when we add it, this becomes 4. This is the chi-square value. Again, we have to refer this with chi-square table. See, this is the table. Because there are two groups, the degrees of freedom becomes 1. The 1 degrees of freedom at 5% is 3.84. You can just see 3.84 is the table value for 1 degrees of freedom when we use the chi-square. So, since the calculated value, what is the calculated value? 4. 4 is more than 3.4, so we reject the null hypothesis. What does it mean? We assume that the number of coffee and tea drinkers are on par with each other, but it is not so. So we can say that Karnataka has more tea drinkers compared to coffee drinkers. This is what we see. Significantly, there is a difference between the coffee and the tea drinkers, and Karnataka is heading for tea drinkers compared to coffee drinkers. This doesn't involve any parameters. That is the reason it is known as non-parametric test. Any doubts up to here, Dr. Vandana?
No, ma'am, it's going on.
Okay.
Yes,
What about
ma'am,
your
it's good.
student?
Yeah, that is what I'm also waiting for the feedback from students.
Yeah, you can just.
You can even put in the chat box. If you have some problem, net issues, you can even put in the chat box. No problem.
Okay. Okay. No, I don't want them to feel boring. That's the only reason I'm just stopping in between.
Yeah. No, ma'am, you're going perfectly all right. And I think so. They must be understanding correctly.
No, I cannot see any of the. I cannot see any of the students here. That's the reason I'm worried. Okay. Anyway.
Madam, basically, it is me and you only and other people who are as a panelist. Rest, they are attending down, and in the chat box, if something is there, I'll let you know, madam.
Okay. Because I'm focusing on my slides, so I have not seen the chat box. Okay. If there are any questions, you please let me know.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Then, if there are no questions, I'll go for the correlation.
Madam, there is one. Madam, there is one question. One Swasti Das, she wants to know. Please explain non-parametric test P again, please.
Okay.
She wants to know about the non-parametric test B.
See, I have talked only about one non-parametric test, that is chi-square test, which is most widely used in research, which doesn't require any of the parameters. Here we just assume something. For example, I am assuming that the number of coffee drinkers and tea drinkers in Karnataka are on equal proportion. 50-50. That is my assumption. To test that hypothesis, I have taken 100 sample, out of which 40 were drinking coffee and 60 were drinking tea. Then the hypothesis goes like this, 1:1, and the alternative hypothesis says, no, they are not on par with each other. And I have collected a sample of 100, out of which 40 were coffee drinkers and 60 were tea drinkers. Then these are the observed value. She might be surprised to see how we get the expected value. Out of 100, suppose they were equal proportion, then we should have got 50 coffee drinkers and 50 tea drinkers. So 40 minus 50 becomes minus 10, 60 minus 50 becomes plus 10. When we, as it is, if we add, it becomes 0. All of you know this. The summation of O minus E is always 0. So we square it, 100 and 100. To balance that, we are dividing with expected frequency, so it becomes 2 and 2. The summation of observed minus expected whole square by expected, that is nothing but the chi-square non-parametric value, which is nothing but 4. And we are referring with the critical value of chi-square for 1 degree of freedom, because there are 2 groups, coffee and tea. There are 2 groups. So for 1 degree of freedom, the table critical value is 3.4. Our calculated value is higher than the critical value. I told you in the beginning only, one thing all of us need to remember: if the calculated value is greater than the critical value, then kindly reject the hypothesis. I told you, when we rush to the doctor, whenever it is beyond the critical value, we rush to the doctor. Similarly here, if the calculated value is higher than the critical value, we reject the null hypothesis. 4 is greater than 3.4, so we reject the hypothesis. What was our assumption? We assumed that coffee and tea drinkers are on equal proportion, which is not so. That's the reason we have. Statistically, it has been proved that tea drinkers are more in Karnataka compared to coffee drinkers. Had it been accepting whatever we have, it is just the chance factor we would have told. Okay, is it clear? You ask her, please, or she can just ask me directly. Sir? Gangawati, sir?
She says, thanks, madam. Go ahead.
Okay. Now the correlation analysis. See, all so far we have talked about to compare the means, to compare the variances, and also the non-parametric. We are interested in knowing the relationship between 2 variables. To study the relationship between 2 variables, we are going for correlation analysis. Okay, the definitions goes like this: correlation analysis deals with the association between 2 or more variables which are quantitative in nature, and the correlation analysis attempts to determine the degree of relationship and things like that. See, what happens whenever there are 2 people, maybe X and Y? What happens? There could be 3 types of relationship. Either they could be friends, either they could be enemies, or they could be hi-bye, no relationship. Only 3 relationships can exist between X and Y. Similarly, between 2 variables, only 3 relationships can exist. Either they are moving in the same direction as friends, or they are enemies moving in opposite direction, or no relationship. So the correlation is nothing but the relationship between 2 variables, 2 or more variables. I'm just giving you 2 variables. You can extend it to more variables. And here we are studying only the magnitude. That's the reason the range of correlation is running from -1 to +1. If it is 0, there is no relationship. If it is -1, it is perfectly negatively correlated. +1, it is perfectly positively correlated. Okay. And how do we measure this? Either simple, partial, or multiple. I'll restrict myself only to simple correlation. This is a formula. See, I'm requesting all the students not to worry about the formula at present. You understand the concept. The formulas are available, the tests are available in all the books and the softwares. This is nothing but the covariance divided by standard deviation of X into standard deviation of Y. See, how do we study the correlation? You can either draw the graph or mathematically. Both I'll be just talking about. Suppose this says the calories per day. Suppose I start eating so much, what happens to my weight? I go on putting weight. So the calories per day and the weight are positively correlated. You can just see here, as the calories increases, the weight also increases. This is graphical method of representation of two variables which are moving upward, that is positive correlation. There is a strong positive correlation. Now, suppose I go to gym and I go to calorie burning, some shuttle or something like that, and the minutes of exercise per day and the weight loss, it is decreasing. That means they are moving in the opposite direction. You can just see, if the two variables are moving in the opposite direction, we say that they are negatively correlated. The minutes of exercise per day and the weight, they are negatively correlated. And then this, you can say the ice cream parlor in USA and the people getting weight, putting on weight in Parul University. Is there any relationship between that? No. You can see some are increasing, some are decreasing. It is scattered. There is no relationship. It is a zero relationship. So these three can be plotted through the graph also. See, this is positive correlation moving upward. As X increases, the Y also increases. This is a positive correlation. The correlation coefficient will be greater than 0, and the negative correlation, as X increases, the Y decreases. This is a negative correlation and no correlation. Whatever happens to X, Y also doesn't bother. It is scattered. Okay. Then mathematically, how do you do it? I'm going only for the Karl Pearson's product moment. This is a formula I'm using, though there are so many formulas. I'm using only this. This is nothing but the covariance of xy divided by standard deviation of x into standard deviation of y. Okay, so I'll give one example. If it is correlation coefficient is +1, it is perfect positive correlation. If the correlation coefficient is -1, it is perfect negative correlation. If the correlation is 0, no relationship between two variables. And you forget about all statistics. It ranges between 0 to 1. Okay, so we divide into 5 parts. If it is between 0.0 to 0.2, we say that very weak relationship. If it is between 0.21 to 0.4, we say that it is weak relationship. 0.41 to 0.6, we call it as moderate. 0.61 to 0.8, we call it as strong. And 0.81 to 1, we call it as very strong relationship. Different statisticians have given this. So this is an easy way to calculate. And the assumptions x and y are linearly related. The scatter diagram of the data will give a straight line. We say that they are linear means line type. Okay, there is a cause and effect relationship. See, this is one example I've taken. Number of study hours and the marks scored in exam. Okay, the x refers to number of study hours. The person who studies 1 hour, he gets 9 marks. The person who studies 2 hours, he gets 8 marks. The person who studies 3 hours, he gets 10 marks. The person who studies 4 hours, he gets 12 marks. The person who studies 5 hours, he gets 11 marks and things like that. Okay, so I have worked out the juggleries for that. And now the R value is 0.95. It is nearer to +1. What does it mean? It is perfectly positively related. What does it mean? What does it mean? As you study more number of hours, you get good marks. You score good. They are positively, they are moving in the same direction. But we have limitations also. It is, you cannot, based on correlation, we cannot predict the value of y based on x. I cannot say, see, if he studies so many hours, what will be his marks? That cannot be studied through correlation. For that, we need to go for regression. I'll be talking about that also. See, these are some of the examples. Again, Vandana, I'm leaving it to you. You can ask your student to study that. Okay. These are some of the examples, theory and practical. You can just keep this. Vandana, are you there? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
This is regression analysis. See, what happens is, all of us are interested in knowing the prediction. We want the predicted. We want to know what will be the predicted marks scored by Parul University student. Suppose they study 4 hours per day, or suppose they go for coaching 4 hours per day. This is your interest. So correlation cannot say that, whereas regression can help to predict the value. It is A plus Bx plus B. I'll tell you how to do that. We have simple as well as multiple regression analysis. The assumptions are there. Everywhere the assumptions are same. Normality, independence, then equals standard error. Okay. So alpha plus beta x plus E, where y is a dependent variable, x is an independent variable, alpha is the constant known as intercept, beta is a constant known as regression coefficient. The regression coefficient measures the rate of change in dependent variable for a unit change in independent variable. Okay. See, y is equal to a plus bx plus c or beta x. Suppose you change x per 1 unit, the y changes per beta unit. That is what it means. Let us take one example and work it out. Okay. Now, these are the measure of height of kids, the age in weeks and height. You can say when the baby is 1 week, his height is 6 centimeter. When the baby is 2 weeks, 30 centimeter, and things like that. I want to fit a regression equation of this. I do all the juggleries and I fit it. Okay, 6.03. And I put an equation. You can just see y is equal to 0.02 plus 6.03x. What does it mean? For every week, the boy increases by 6.03 centimeter. Every week, the boy or the kid increases by 6.03. The sign of the regression coefficient is similar to sign of correlation coefficient. If the relationship is positive, the regression coefficient also will be positive. The difference is, and I can predict what will be the height of boy when the baby is 10 weeks. You substitute here 10, 6.03 into 10, that is 60.3 plus 0.02, so it becomes 60.32 will be the height of the baby when the baby is 10 weeks old. This is how regression helps in predicting. Most of you will be doing this research. You can use this. This is one of the best way of prediction. I'm going only for simple regression because of time frame. You can use so many independent variables, x1, x2, x3, x4, and predict also. I'm giving one more example that can be worked out by the student. Again, I'm leaving it to Dr. Vandana to do it. She can have production and export, and you can go for this. Then the last test, what I'll be talking about is analysis of variance. Any doubts still here, Vandana? Vandana ji, Dr. Vandana?
Yes, no.
Any chat box questions?
At present, I cannot see. No, ma'am.
Okay. Then I'll continue with this. This will be the last test I'll be talking about. See, so far you have studied to compare between two groups, to compare between one group, non-parametric test, to know the relationship, to know the prediction. Suppose you have more than 3 groups, more than 2 groups. Which test can you use? Can you use Z test? Can you use T test? Students, I want you to interact with me, please. Vandana, can you help any of the students to ask me questions or answer this? Dr. Vandana?
Yes, ma'am.
Whether the students are...
Gangwani sir, are the students able to speak?
Yeah.
I think so they won't be. They will only be able to write in chat box.
Okay, ask them to write if they have. Can they use T test? Can they use Z test?
Yeah, students, please write down the answer. Where can you use?
Use.
Just a minute. I've got some answer. No. Hello. Yes, students, please ask the questions in the chat box or comply with the comments which madam has made. Anybody? Even if some teachers also, they can also participate. They are saying we can't use the tests.
We can't use the test. Why? Why you cannot use the test? Why can't you use T test? Why can't you use T test?
Yes, please. Anybody to answer? The one who has already answered, can please elaborate on her question?
Saswati Das, you said
Yes,
you
Saraswati
cannot
Das.
use the test. So why you cannot use the test? My question to you. 1 minute. Yes. What happened? Okay. Any answer? Any answer? No. Okay. I'll be saying definitely we can use t-test. The thing is, every time we make a comparison, we are associating with 5% of level of significance. Suppose we have 2 pairs to compare, it becomes 10. Then 3 pairs, 15%, 4 pairs, 20%, and things like that. So to minimize the error, at once we want to compare all the groups. That's the reason we are not using t-test. Instead of that, we are going for analysis of variance test, wherein we are partitioning the total variation into different components. That is, one is known, another one is unknown. We are decomposing the total variation into 2 parts. One is known source, another one is unknown source. Please remember this. Okay.
Madam, there is one question from one of our international student.
Okay.
He wants to know at which point do we apply the chi-test, t-test,
Yeah, that I've already told
all
you.
the statistical methods.
Yeah, that I've already told you. Anyway, I'll speak to that at the end. Summary. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I think he has joined late. Has he joined late?
Yeah, he has joined. He has joined the program.
No. Has he joined late? I said no.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, I'll be answering that at the end again. Okay.
Okay.
Now let me continue. Anoma, is it okay? Is it okay? Shall I continue?
Yeah, madam. No problem.
Yes, ma'am.
For the validity of the F test, ANOVA, see the different factors. I'm giving one example, then it will be clear. Otherwise, it may not be. You can just see the total variation is different, partition into different component. Actually, all of you might have heard about R.A. Fisher. He is known as the father of statistics, though he is a breeder. ANOVA is the separation of the variance into different attributes. But there are 3 principles which are very, very important in analyzing this. That is known as the 3 basic principles of experimental design. You might have heard about CRD, RCBD, and things like that. I'm not going in detail because of shortage of time. Suppose you want to have really know about it, we will have one more session in the coming days, if you permit, and I'll be talking about different experimental design. Now I'm restricting this only to one-way analysis of variance, where the 3 basic principles of experimental design are very important. That is replication, randomization, and local control. The replication is nothing but repetition of an experiment under identical condition. Replication is nothing but repetition of an experiment under identical condition. You cannot have an experiment, just one experiment, and say this is significant over the other. You need to repeat it. Suppose you are drawing a observation from one plant. No, you cannot do it. You need to have minimum of 2. Then randomization. Randomization means you are not biased. You are drawing the sample at random, giving equal probability to each unit in the population. And local control. Local control is you are controlling all the factors except the one in which you are interested. So all the 3 together, replication, local control, and randomization, all together reduces the experimental error. The error, what is there in the experiment. So these 3 things are very, very important to carry on any experiment. The one-way analysis, these 3 are the basic principles. Okay, I'll be going for one example. That is, you have a data of milk yield obtained from 3 breeds of cows replicated 5 times. So altogether there are 15 animals. Since there are 3 groups, we cannot use t-test. I told you, of course we can use. Since the error is more, we are not entitled to use it. We are minimizing it. In such cases, we are going. You can just see here. See the breed A, breed B, breed C. The breed A, first day it gives 7 liters, second day it gives 5 liters of milk, third day it gives 6, and fourth day it gives 3 liters, and fifth day it gives 4 liters. On an average, it gives 5 liters of milk. Similarly, the B breed gives 9 liters of milk, and C breed gives 13 liters of milk. Suppose you take the overall average of 3 breeds replicated 5, it is 9. Suppose there is no deviation at all. Each day, each cow should have given you 9 liters. So now we are finding out why there is difference. Why there is difference? Student, can you tell me? See, the breed A gives 5 liters on an average, B gives 9 liters, and C gives 30 liters. Why there is difference? Students, I want you to interact with me, please. Otherwise, it is boring for me. Please. Hello, students? At least put it in the chat box.
Please put it in the chat box. Yeah.
Why we are finding the difference? Why not it is yielding 9 liters daily across the breed and across the days? Why there is no similarity? Why there is difference? Can any student help me in answering? Students, please, PhD scholars, please. Hello? Vandana?
Madam, this program, this one, the students only can view you. They will not be able to, and whatever the queries is there, they will give in the chat box.
No, that's what I want them to answer to this, I told you.
Yeah. Because we the person who is handling it down, they have made them unmute. So we can't do it down.
No, they can write down, no, at least in the chat box. Can they write down in the chat box?
If you do not understand the question also, you can write in the chat box. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Vandana?
No, I'm telling the students that even if you do not understand something, you can also put it in the chat box, you know?
Any reply, madam?
No, no.
Can I go ahead?
Yes,
See,
ma'am.
only thing I just get worried because there should not be any monotonous like. That's the only reason I'm worried.
Yeah.
Are they understanding or is it boring for them? I'm worried about that. That's all.
No, madam, it must be. Yeah, just a minute, ma'am. See, there's something written. They have written that because different breeds produce different quantity of milk and also food intake. Yes, Samuel? Yes, hello?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, somebody has written because different breeds produce different quantity of milk and also food intake.
No. That is not the one. Any other?
Exactly.
Any other?
Yeah.
Any other?
Somebody can try.
Okay.
No
anyway.
problem if you're wrong. No problem if you're wrong, but at least try and answer.
Yes. Okay, no issue. If they are not interested, I'll only give you the answer.
Well, they must not be understanding or they must be confused or something like that, maybe. Yes, ma'am, you can you please, yeah,
I can continue? I can continue?
Yes, ma'am.
There could be only two reasons. One is there might be difference between the breeds. That could be one reason. A, B, C. They are from different breeds. One might be from Haryana, one from Karnataka, and things like that. And one is even though the breeds is okay, but why within the breeds? A breed, B breed, C breed, like this. Why within the breeds there is difference? That is really astonishing, isn't it? Within the breeds also we find a lot of difference. So this is the real thing we need to bother. So there are two types of variation that can happen. One is between the breeds, one is within the breeds. So I'm trying to find out this. The total difference is imagine that suppose there were no difference, then it is 7 minus 1, 5 minus 9 like this. See all this 7 minus 9 because 9 is the overall average. It would have been like this. 210 would have been the total variation. Okay. So the total is 25, 45, 65 and this. And variation among breeds. See the first one. It is 5. Actually, it should have been 9, but it is 5. So 5 minus 9 is minus 4. 9 minus 1 is 9, and 13 minus 9 is 4. That's the difference. Minus 4, 0, and 4. So between the breeds is 5 into minus 4. Vandana, can you hear me? There is internet.
Ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, it is thundering here. That's the reason.
No,
5
ma'am.
into 0 squared, 5 into 4 squared, that is 80 plus 80, that is 160. So I'm putting the ANOVA table here. You can see this is the dummy ANOVA table. It needs to have 5 columns. One is source of ability, then degrees of freedom, then sum of squares, mean sum of squares, and F ratio. Under sum of squares, the total variability and between the breeds, and this is the error within the error, which I always call it as God only knows error. Totally, there were 15 animals. So the degrees of freedom, I told you, it is 1 minus the total, so it is 14. And we had 3 breeds, so it is 3 minus 1, 2 degrees of freedom. And the error is 14 minus 2, that is 12 degrees of freedom. So total variability 210, and here between the breeds it is 160. So 210 minus 160 is 15 is the error variation. And we have to go for mean sum of squares. 160 divided by respective degrees of freedom, that is 80, and 50 divided by 12, that is 4.17. So now the F ratio, I told you in the beginning only, it is nothing but between divided by error. Mean sum of squares, which is nothing but 80 divided by 4.17, it is 19.184. Okay, so this is the table value. 6.93 is the table value. Okay. Now, we have to, since the calculated value is greater than the table value, we reject the null hypothesis, which implies that there is a significant difference between the breed selected. I think I try to end it here. Any questions if you want me to see all this, I can give a demo in Excel if you want. Otherwise, I would like to, because the organizer has asked me to speak for 1.5 hours, which I have done. Any questions, I will be happy to answer to you. Hello, Dr. Vandana, Dr.
Yes.
Gangavar.
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
questions?
Ma'am, we are waiting for students to ask, but it is not there. Yeah.
At least ask them whether they have understood or any clarification is required.
Yeah, students, please write down if you require any more clarification on any of topic which she has covered, like student test or PAT-T test or ANOVA. All the students. Maybe, ma'am, as you said, we had a basic discussion today on this. So maybe in the next session when we have. Hello.
Hello. Yeah,
Yes,
Vandana, madam.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, in the next session when we have a proper discussion.
Yes.
Madam,
Yeah.
I have my personal question. One is like, suppose I want to have something, a rare disease, and suppose the sample size, which is a conventional method, like, what should be the sample size? It should vary from 30 to 40.
No, you see, the sample size can be 100 also, it could be 40 also. Based on the researchers' convenience, we choose that. But if you really want to have a stable results, then it is better to go for a higher sample size. Sir? Gangavani, sir?
Yeah, sir. Madam, basically, like, suppose I get some disorder, which is seen in 1 in 5 lakhs people. One person, one sample, one individual comes to my hospital. 5 lakhs people I examine, and I get some rare disorder which
See,
which
in
is
that case,
due to some genetic, and then collecting the.
yes.
Mhm.
See, that case you cannot go for 30% of the total population. Then you can restrict it to less also. We can go for t-test and finish it. That's the reason I
Okay.
told in medical we cannot use that test because you cannot get so many disorders. You cannot get so many patients.
Right.
Ma'am, somebody has asked from Hetal has asked that can we use this test in Excel?
Pardon?
Can we use this test in Excel?
Yeah, we can. I can show you that. That's what I said. Each test I can give you, but it takes time. That's all. We can do all this test in Excel. It is not a problem at all. Dr. Vandana, you can do one thing. I want to have interaction with the student. So what you can do is you can arrange for one more training program next week where I can give a demo on Excel. I want to interact with them. Otherwise, it becomes one way, like which I don't like.
Exactly. Okay, ma'am. Sure.
So they can have the laptop along with me, and I'll be talking. I'll be giving a demo. They can work along with me. All the tests what I told.
Yes, ma'am. A kind of workshop we can have.
Yeah, workshop, and it is not necessarily only this much. See, the statistics is a subject. I have put everything in 1.5 hours. It is not possible actually.
Madam, Samuel is asking that can you suggest some book in which it is easy referencing ke liye some books.
Gupta and Kapoor is actually the Bible, like Gupta and Kapoor. The basic statistics by Gupta and Kapoor.
Madam, just a minute. I'll write down in the chat box. Okay.
Yeah. Gupta and Kapoor.
Yeah. Basic statistics
by Gupta and Kapoor.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. And my email ID also, I'll pass it on to them.
Yeah.
If they want. Okay.
You can put in the chat, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
See, one thing all of you need to remember, if the calculated value is greater than the table value, we reject the null hypothesis. This is whether you use t-test, z-test, chi-square test, correlation, regression, whatever it is. This thing you need to remember.
Yes,
whatever it is. Then I'll come back to the same thing before I thank all of you. 1 minute. Just somebody was asking about that question. I just want to clarify that. Which test to be used when? And I'll share the slides with you, madam. Tomorrow I'll send it to you. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, sure. One minute, just wait for a minute. Just because I have so many slides, that's the reason. See, these are the tables also I've scanned and made use because it will be helpful to the students. See, without demo, they will not understand. Statistics is not a subject to be just told orally. It need to be practiced. That's very important.
Yes, ma'am. And in one go, they won't understand also unless until they sit with the data. It's difficult for them even to, understand.
That's the reason I've given some example. 1 minute, just be online. See, this is where I told. See, I think those of them who are asking me some questions, you can use t-test to compare the means where the sample size should be less than 30. Somebody was asking that international student, Dr. Vandana, can you just tell me? And z-test is used to compare either the single mean or the two means when the sample size is greater than 30. And f-test is used to compare the variances. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other queries student has? I'll be.
No, that's it. Just a minute. I will again see. Yeah, they are saying because you said the PPT, they said the PPT would really help them.
Hello. That's okay. I want to.
Yeah.
No, I really want to know whether my presentation was of use to them or not. Otherwise, there is no fun in discipline teaching.
Oh, ma'am,
That is.
definitely it will be useful to them, even if they've not yet started. Also, it will be definitely useful to them later on. But maybe because some of them are not into statistics, and just by listening, maybe they are not able to tell. But yeah, Samuel, the book name is Basic Statistics by Gupta and Kapoor. See the chat box.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other queries? Any other queries?
No, ma'am, that's it. Yes.
Any other queries they have?
No, madam.
If they don't have, I really want to thank all of them, all the participants for the patient hearing, and my special thanks to Dr. Vijay Kumar sir, who was really like so kind of him to think of me and give me this opportunity to interact with you all. And also I thank Dr. A.K. Gangavane, the assistant registrar, and Dr. Vandana Patil, who is in charge of PhD, and all the students for your patience hearing. Thank you, one and all. And once again, I wish all of you a very happy Navratri, and I hope the Ma Durga will really eliminate our COVID-19 and we will back to normal very soon.
Did she leave?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Asha ma'am, sir is there. You can just talk to sir. He's
I'm
Asha,
really
Asha.
here. Yeah, sir.
Thank you very much, Asha. I'm sorry, something is wrong with my system. It has automatically gone to
Yes,
YouTube.
no problem.
So we are unable to be on the screen. Anyway, thank you very much. You have covered the entire statistics syllabus of a book in 2 hours. Well, it was in a hurry, I do agree. But as you suggested, we'll have a separate workshop for it. I request Vandana madam and Gangavane madam, sir to
because
Yes,
sir, you know
for
it
such a
pretty
workshop.
well. Just
Maybe a
just
Saturday if it is
speak it.
convenient to you.
Yeah. Saturday is
Yeah.
always convenient, except last Saturday we had some other webinar. That was the problem, like. Otherwise,
Okay,
Saturday
we'll
afternoon
have it on a
also.
Saturday because we'll have the complete attendance of all PhD students.
All the
Yes,
students.
Because
That's
most of our PhD students are all employees, like they are in different places, like all of them will not be able to join. Whereas Saturdays we are kept from 1:30 onwards, we have kept their sessions. So they will be able to join in large numbers also.
Yes, that would be really great, and I hope it was of some use to them, really. And a special thanks to
Sure,
you, sir.
for sure.
Special thanks to you.
Thank
sir,
you,
for
Asha. Thanks
thinking of
again.
me. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, Gangavane.
okay, ma'am. Thank you for being with
Thank
us
you.
and for such an enlightening talk with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. You can
Thank
close
you,
it
madam, for
because
being
you
a
are the
part
host.
of the, expecting our invitations and being giving the students some guidelines. Always the students has an issue of the statistical method in research, because
Yes.
what is happening, one coming from a PG background, after passing down, then what is research? So for
Yes.
them, they just have something in their mind and they start. But when it comes to statistics part, the first question always, whenever they are presenting, the first thing the DRC member said, what is original and novel in your research, and which is the statistics method you are adopting in your research. So at that time, I had seen that maximum of our students has to, they get some extension of 2 or 3 months to come back, have the proposal made and send it back, basically for management or for commerce and some other and sometimes in our medical also. So it was a very good session, madam, and we had a very good interaction with you and having a vast knowledge of statistics.
See,
Madam, next time I hope so, we can plan it in a very big way, the student
workshop,
can
like a
register
workshop,
themselves
because see,
and
statistics is not a subject to just tell orally. You need to show them to them only. And they can have a laptop and work along with me. That would be more interesting for them, because I want to see the students. Just them watching somewhere will not help me to deliver the lecture. That would be very nice.
Madam, this time, sorry to interpret, madam, this time I had planned it on a Zoom one. What I will do?
No,
Tuna, I
Zoom
will
you
keep
can
this
do it,
meeting
but
on
I
our
want to see the
Google Meet
student
platform.
also.
So
Yeah.
at that part, sure, madam. I'll see to that next time. Next time, this is a common platform by our university to have a Zoom
Okay.
meeting. But for the PhD section, I conduct it on a Google Meet. So where I
Okay.
become a host and I see to that the student get connected very well, and they are very clear. You can either see them or you can hear them down, and they will be always 100, 150
Interact.
plus students are
Yes.
there. So
Yes.
I see to that one Saturday. You just let me know your convenient date and time so
Okay,
that we
sir.
can
Sure.
plan.
Sure, sure, sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. You can close it
Much
from your end because you are the host.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
Yeah,
thank
thank you,
you.
madam.
Bye. See you. Bye.
you.